All right, let's just continue on with story of Balaam and how evil this guy was. You may not see it on the first pass. Um, you may not see it on the second pass. A lot of people read this story and they're quite confused by it. I know I was the first few times that I read it, but I spent hours on this story. And what happens is there's a couple of things that happen. When people read the story, they'll say things like, Balaam was a good person because he was a prophet of God, but he got too greedy and he changed his mind and then ended up cursing Israel. And he tried 3 times to curse Israel, but God wouldn't let him. And in our life, if you try to curse God, it won't work. It'll come back on you and all this kind of stuff. And they're just, then they talk about don't be a donkey, don't be like Balaam's donkey, or be like Balaam's donkey, don't be like Balaam, and all this. And they kind of miss the big picture of what's actually going on here. And I hope to explain it in this video. This is part 2. If you didn't see part 1, go to part 1 where I talk about the introduction of Balaam. And the easiest thing is to probably just read the story, read the oracles of Balaam, and we'll talk a little bit about the doctrine of Balaam and what I think is actually happening here. And hopefully you can get a snapshot of what is actually going on here. So let us just go to, we'll go to Numbers 23, Balaam's first oracle. Maybe I'll just back up a little bit. So Balak just finished summoning Balaam, and Balaam basically says, let's just go right to it here. Let's go past the donkey here. Let's go. Let's go to verse 15. And this is a little bit of a recap. Maybe I'll just go into the donkey here again. So verse 15, and Balak sent yet again princes more honorable than they, and came to Balaam and said unto him, Thus saith Balak, the son of Zippor, let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me, for I will promote thee unto very great honor, and I will do whatsoever thou sayest unto me. Come therefore, I pray you, curse me this people. And Balaam answered and said unto the servants, if Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold, this is what I mentioned, this is the deal. If you give me a house full of silver and gold, I will not say anything beyond what God is telling me. No more, no less. I'm not going to give you my opinion. Now, therefore, I pray you tarry here this night, and that I may know what the Lord will say to me. And then a little bit earlier, verse 7, you'll see that, and the elders of Moab, I should use my little highlighter here just so you can see it. I know it's hard print. I just didn't feel like copying everything out. It's too lazy. If you want to read the story, it's in Numbers 22. So verse 7, and the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the rewards of divination in their hand. So this was payment. I missed that the first time around, but this is payment. So we don't see that he accepted it, but you could pretty much, it sure looks like he's continuing on, because if he didn't accept it, he probably wouldn't do anything. So it looks like that was kind of a normal thing, was to show up with rewards of divination. So if Balaam does something for them, here's a gift. Could be cash. Who knows what it is, how much it was. We're not told exactly. But part 2 of it, you could almost look at it as a bit of a down payment. And then part 2 would be when Balaam answers and says, if Balak would give me a house full of silver and gold. So that's the deal. That finalizes the deal. And he says, stay here. God's going to talk to me, and then I'll give you my answer. Then God says to Balaam, if the men come to call thee, in other words, if the men come to say to you, rise up and go with them, just do what I tell you to say. That's it. Because the first message was don't go with them. Second message to Balaam is if they say rise up and go with them, only do what I tell you. So the next morning, Balaam got up, saddled his ass, and went with the princes. And then we get the story of a donkey. And I honestly believe that Balaam was mad when he saw this donkey and he saw the donkey speaking, all this kind of stuff. And I think it was actually the angel speaking to him, but he was hallucinating and looking at his donkey, beating his donkey, all kinds of stuff. And then all of a sudden he sees the angel. So I think he was just going mental, going crazy. So then, let's see here. We see in verse 36, and when Balak heard Balaam was come, he went out to meet him in the city, which is in the border of Arnon, which is in the utmost coast. And Balak said unto Balaam, did I not earnestly send unto thee to call thee? Just gonna get rid of this ad here. So this is important here. Did I not earnestly send unto thee to call thee? And this is what people miss. Wherefore camest thou not unto me? Am I not able to indeed to promote thee unto honor? And Balaam said unto Balak, lo, I am here. I am come unto thee. Have I now any power at all to say anything? The word that God putteth in my mouth shall I speak. And Balaam went with Balak, and they came forth onto Girjath Huzoth, and Balak offered sheep, oxen and sheep, and sent Balaam and the princes that were with him. And it came to pass on the morrow that Balak took Balaam and brought him up to the high places of Baal, and thence he might see the utmost part of the people. There's lots of stuff going on here. I think we have to look at this as code. They are talking to each other in some kind of code, as in, it's almost like, how do you say it? It's almost like they know that they're being listened to, so they're saying the right things, but they're doing something else. So it's almost like when Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to him and said, did I not earnestly send unto thee to call thee? Wherefore thou comest not unto me? Am I not able to indeed promote thee to honor? Question mark. And Balaam said unto Balak, lo, I am come unto thee. So it's in code here, because basically Balaam is saying, didn't I say, come to me earnestly? And Balaam saying, I'm here. And I don't have any power to say anything except what God puts in my mouth shall I speak. So this is code to us. We're looking at this and we're reading this. We're going, okay, well, he's basically saying, I'm here now. Do I have any power? Can I say anything? The word that God putteth in my mouth shall I speak. So this is code. They're moving ahead with the plan, but they're speaking in code. And I know it's hard to grasp the first few hundred times you read this, but when you read it a bunch of times, you'll start to see that they are speaking to each other in code. And I'll give you an example of this. Hopefully this will make sense here, because it's confusing at first when you're reading it. It's like, man, what is going on here? So, and Balaam said unto Balak, build me here 7 altars, and prepare me here 7 oxen and 7 rams. He's telling him what to do. And Balak did as Balaam had spoken. And Balak and Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and ram, a bull and a ram. The symbol for Baal is a bull and sometimes a ram. So they are creating a trap for Israel right before our eyes. And some people will go, well, this is a holy man. He is sacrificing a bull and a ram on an altar, so this must be a godly man. And I'm telling you, he is setting a trap right now for Israel. This is not a godly man. These guys are moving straight ahead with the plan. It was in code the first time they met. They understood what Balaam was saying. So we're going to see more of this code coming up right away. And I want you to look at this as almost like reverse psychology, if you will. Look at it where it's almost like somebody saying something to you, but they are like, just say, for example, oh, I really hate peanut butter parfait. Oh, it is so terrible. I can't stand peanut butter parfait as you're eating it. If somebody were to read that, they would go, wow, they must not like peanut butter parfait. But the way they said it, it's not true. I love peanut butter parfait. But somebody passing by would hear me and go, that guy doesn't like peanut butter parfait. So this is the type of code that we're actually reading here in Numbers 23. They are speaking as though this is a good thing, but they're actually building an altar on a high place to set a trap for the Israelites to fall in sexual immorality. And if you notice, King Solomon did the same thing. After he built the temple, his temple of Solomon took him 7 years to build. He started setting up altars on high places for all of his 700 wives and fell right away. And God wanted to snatch the kingdom immediately out of his hands, but because he promised King David that he wouldn't do it in his generation, he gave him 40 years. And then he ripped it out of Solomon's son's kingdom and left him with 2 tribes. 10 of them went to the north, were Israel, 2 to Judah. And after the temple being built, everything fell apart after that. Israel never returned to its former glory ever since that temple was built. And I share another video talking about that, asking the question, is it a good idea for Israel today to build that 3rd temple? And I would argue that it is not a good idea. Are they going to do it? Quite possibly. I have some other ideas around that when the Antichrist shows up. It may not necessarily be in a temple like Israel's thinking. Am I the only one saying this? Yeah, it kind of feels like it. Kind of feels like it right now. But when you read this like it's code, it jumps out to you. It jumps out to you that Balaam is a wicked man. He was never in the right place with God. He is a madman, and this is very dangerous because the exact same thing that I'm sharing with you right now can easily appear in our church, and we won't even see it coming. It's that obvious, and it's that cunning, and you won't see it. Don't forget, the devil is behind this. And he comes across his appearance as an angel of light. And if you're not in tune with that, if you're not reading your Bible every single day and you're not protecting yourself, you're not going to see it. You're going to miss it. And you're going to be just torn left, right, and center by every single doctrine under the sun. This is part of it. So Balaam said unto Balak, build me 7 altars and prepare me here 7 oxen and 7 rams. Balak did as Balaam had spoken, and Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and ram. And Balaam said unto Balak, stand by the burnt offering, and I will go. Peradventure, the Lord will come meet me. Whatsoever he sheweth me, I will tell thee. And he went to a high place. This is key right here. So just because he is saying the right things doesn't mean he is doing the right things. He is actually setting up altars on high places. This is key. This is what Balaam does. This is what Baal is. Very dangerous. And God met Balaam and said unto him, and he said unto him, meaning Balaam, I have prepared 7 altars, and I have offered upon every altar a bullock and a ram. And the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, Return unto Balak, thus shalt thou speak. And he returned unto him, and lo, he stood by his burnt offering, he and all the princes of Moab. And he took up his parable. This is so important. So notice, return unto Balak, thus shalt thou speak. Doesn't finish it. Doesn't say what God says. Instead, Balaam picked up a parable, almost like a script, if you will, of what he already had written out. A curse, whatever. It's already pre-written. That's his parable. It's all practiced. It's almost like an actor showing up on the set and memorizing his script. And if he gets off script, he'll look at it and then go, okay, this is what I'm supposed to say. That's what his parable is. So he took up his parable and said, Balak the king of Moab hath brought me from Aram out of the mountains of the east, saying, Come, curse me, Jacob, and come, defy Israel. How shall I curse God hath, how shall I curse whom God hath not cursed? Or how shall I defy whom the Lord hath not defied? And this is code right here. Balaam is basically telling him, like, I'm coming up with a way that's different than this, because how can I curse God? He's saying all the right things. For on top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations. It's talking about Israel. Who can count the dust of Jacob, and number the 4th part of Israel? Let me die the death of righteous, and let my last end be like his. So there's, again, this is some kind of code going on. I can't understand it 100%. But when you get to verse 11, Balak said unto Balaam, What hast thou done unto me? I took thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast blessed them altogether. And he answered and said, Must I not take heed to speak that which the Lord hath put in my mouth? So Balak is saying unto Balaam, What have you done to me? I took you to curse my enemies, and behold, you blessed them. And then Balak said unto him, Come, I pray thee with me to another place, from whence thou mayest see them. Thou shalt see but the utmost part of them, and shalt not see them all, and curse me from thence. And he brought him to the field of Zophim, to the top, and built 7 altars, and offered a bullock and a ram on every altar. And he said unto Balak, Stand here by thy burnt offering, while I meet the Lord yonder. And the Lord met Balaam and put a word in his mouth. We don't see anything. It just says, Go again unto Balak and say thus. We don't know what he says. And when he came to him, behold, he stood by his burnt offering to the prince Moab. And Balak said unto him, What has the Lord spoken? And he took up his parable again. This is all code. He's pronouncing a curse unbeknownst to everyone, including, I don't think Balak totally understood this. So he did it like 3 times. And I won't read it all, but if you start looking at this, like, it's not sarcasm. He's saying the right words, but their actions are doing something else. They are setting up altars. They're setting up a trap. And I don't know how else to explain that. Because if you go to verse 24, like, let's just go to the end of 23 first. And Balak said unto Balaam, Come, I pray thee, and I will build thee another place. Peradventure it will please God that thou mayest curse them from thence. And Balak brought Balaam unto the top of Peor, that looketh over Jeshimon. And Balaam said unto Balak, Build me here 7 altars, and prepare me here 7 bullocks and 7 rams, And Balak did as Balaam had said, and offered a bullock and a ram on every altar. Chapter 24. And when Balaam saw that this pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he went not, as at other times, to seek for enchantments, but he set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam lifted his eyes, and he saw Israel abiding in his tents according to their tribes, and the Spirit of God came upon him. And he took up his parable, again we see this, and said, Balaam the son of Beor hath said, this is where he's casting a spell or a curse on Israel. This is worded so weird. He took up his parable and said, Balaam the son of Beor has said, so this is the beginning of his curse. And the man whose eyes are open has said, he has said, which heard the words of God, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob. This is the spell. This is the curse that he's using on Israel in this third oracle right now. As the valleys are spread forth, as gardens by the river's side, as the trees of lime aloes, which the Lord hath planted, and as cedar trees beside the waters, he shall pour water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be many waters, and his king shall be higher than Agag. And I think this was at one of those wicked kings. And his kingdom shall be exalted. Question is, whose kingdom? God brought forth him out of Egypt. He has said, as it were strength of a unicorn, which is interesting. He shall set up the nations his enemies, and shall break their bones, and pierce them through with his arrows. He couched, he lay down as a lion, as a great lion. Who shall stir him up? Blessed is he that blesseth thee, and cursed is he that curses thee. They said that right. So this is the curse right now that he's saying. It's in code, and it sounds like he's doing something nice. But when he says he shall pour water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters, and his king shall be higher than Agag, this is not a blessing. There's something else going on here. This is the beginning of his curse, his spell that he's putting over Israel. Because then after, Balak's anger was kindled. He was so mad at Balaam, and he smote his hands together. Boom. It's almost like this is done. We think of it as this is Balak being mad at Balaam. But I think there was something else going on where it's basically the deal was done. I called thee to curse thy enemies, and behold, thou hast altogether blessed them these 3 times. I think there's some kind of backwards code here, meaning the opposite. He's saying one thing, but he's meaning the opposite. So bless them these 3 times. He's actually cursed them these 3 times. We just don't see it. Therefore now flee unto thy place. I thought to promote thee, which he is going to promote him. But lo, the Lord hath kept thee back from honor, meaning he's going to honor him. He's going to bless him. And Balaam said unto Balak, spake I not unto thy messengers which thou sentest unto me? If Balak would give me his house full of silver, I cannot go. So again, he's mentioning this is what the payment was. Balak just said he's going to honor him. I cannot go beyond the commandment to do either good or mine, but what the Lord saith, what will I speak? And now behold, I go unto my people. Come therefore, and I will advertise thee what this people shall do to thy people in the later days. So, this is part of the agreement. Balak dismisses Balaam, but it's done. The deal's done. He just finished cursing Israel 3 times, and so many people miss this. So then a fourth parable. Took up his parable and said, Balaam, the son of Beor, has said, Matthew's eyes. So he's cursing again. He's doing it again to Israel. And let's see. So he does, what does he say here? And Edom shall be a possession. Seir shall be a possession for his enemies, and Israel shall do valiantly. Out of Jacob shall come he that have dominion, shall destroy him that remaineth of the city. So it looks on paper that this is fantastic. And then he says some stuff towards Balak, but really you got to reverse this stuff. It sounds like he's going against Balak, but he's actually blessing Balak, and it sounds like he's blessing Israel, but he's actually cursing Israel. So if you go to verse 25, and Balaam rose up and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way. Look at this. Balaam rose up. So there's no argument there. Payment's done. Transaction's done. Balaam did what he said he was going to do. He just cursed Israel 3 times by setting up these 3 altars. And then he ends up blessing Balak. Don't believe me? Let's go to Numbers 25. See what happens here. And Israel, this is right after, and Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab, and they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat. Let me just erase this here. And the people did eat and bowed down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And the Lord said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them up before the Lord against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned from Israel. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay ye every one of his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. So they went right into it. They started worshiping Baal and committing wicked sins. Then, verse 6, and behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of the congregation of the children of Israel, who were in the middle of weeping before the door of the tabernacle. So you get this guy that's bringing, could be a prostitute, a Midian woman, in the sight of Moses to have sex with her right in front of Moses, right in front of the leadership, right in front of the congregation. That was his plan. This is how bewitched, if you will, Israel was, under the spell of Baal, of Balaam. He just went up on top of the high places, erected 3 altars with rams and bulls on it right before your very eyes, and it looks like he's blessing Israel, but he's actually doing a reverse kind of a blessing, which is actually he's buying time to set up these altars, and he's actually cursing Israel. He's setting up a curse. And then he does the opposite for Balak. He says, here's what's going to happen to you, and then reverses it on him, basically saying, here's my payment. Remember when I said about the silver and gold in the house? Thank you for that, basically. And they just basically clapped, and that was it. And Balak went his way, Balaam went his way. And this is what happened. So then, I know it's hard to grasp the first time. Like I said, I read this a ton of times. So let's just go. And behold, one of the children of Israel brought unto his brethren a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses, in the sight of the congregation, who were weeping before the door of the congregation. And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation, took a javelin in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent, and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. How did that work? Well, got the guy in the back, and he ended up getting her in the belly because they were making love. They were having sex in the tent. And so this priest kills them both with a spear. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel. And those that died in the plague were 24,000. 24,000 people died. So this plague was like a sexual plague. They couldn't see what was happening. Everybody was having sex with the Midianites and all this, and Moses and the leaders were weeping, going, what is going on? All these people they're eating meat sacrificed to idols. They're having sex with all these women right before our eyes. What is going on? And it was almost like Moses couldn't see it in the leadership. And then one guy saw it and grabbed a spear and then stabbed the man and the woman that were having sex in a tent. And then it stopped. Then Phinehas gets a reward, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, had turned away my wrath from the children of Israel while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consumed not the children of Israel in my jealousy. So God was getting jealous because all these people were sleeping with all these Midianite women. So it just went crazy overnight. And again, it was because of what was happening, what Balaam was doing just minutes, hours, days before. He just finished setting up 3 altars with Balak, and then they went their separate ways. After they broke out of that trance, eventually Balaam gets killed. Hopefully that makes sense. That's a lot. And again, nobody's talking about this. They're just going at it from a basic Sunday school level. They're going, oh, this was a good man. And then he turned bad at the last minute, but really he was pretty good. And then they get caught up in this donkey and they're like, and he's beating his donkey and God is into animal rights and all this kind of stuff. And how about this? How about Balaam is mad as a scientist? How about he's crazy? He's evil. How about that perspective? I know it's hard to see it. It's hard to see it. But if you study it over and over again and you read it, you will see that Balaam was not a good guy. He was never a good guy, at least in the story here. He was planning to do the right thing. He's saying the right words. And this is part of the doctrine of Balaam. You can get a Christian or somebody that pretends that they're a Christian, stand up in front of a church and say the right words and be wicked inside. And unless you're able to discern the spirit, you will never know that this person is wicked until it's too late, till they take everything you have. And you'll continue to give them money and whatever it is, thinking you're doing a good thing, and they will say to your face, they will pray for you, and they will open up the Bible. They will read the same things that you read. But it's the spirit of Balaam. It's a different doctrine. It's a wicked doctrine. And if you're not aware of it, you're not going to see it coming. I'm telling you. And this is hopefully this makes sense the way that I'm explaining it, because it's so subtle. It's like right there. And if you don't see it, you're going to be like, well, this seems like a good person. Seems like a good person. Like he's saying all the right words. It's almost like if you have a daughter and some guy comes over, wants to date your daughter, and you're like, something feels off. He's saying all the right words and all this kind of stuff. And yet he ends up seducing her and whatever, running away to another country, and you never see them again, whatever. It's an exaggeration. But it's almost like you're looking at it from an outward appearance. You're looking like the guy is holding a Bible in his hand. Therefore, he must be a Christian. He's saying all the right words. He keeps going back to these certain verses. And yet, there's something else going on behind the scenes. The guy is actually evil. And that's Balaam. And still today, there are people that will read that story and go, Balaam was a pretty good guy. He tried to do the right thing. He blessed Israel. And yet, did he really? Because the next chapter, Israel fell hard. hard. So, if you found this of interest, feel free to subscribe, comment, let me know your thoughts, whatever. If you think I'm crazy, that's fine as well. But check it out. Anywhere you see in the New Testament, Balaam is not a good guy. He is not a good guy at all. So you have to read it from that perspective. If you think this guy is a good prophet speaking on behalf of God, then you have to revisit that. You have to change your perspective because he's not a good guy. That's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.